What's going on, guys? I'm late with videos this week, I know, but I just had some stuff going on. Stuff got in the way. You guys all know how it is, so I'm here now. It's Saturday afternoon, 2:30. We're about, I don't know, 5.5 hours away from kickoff tonight. Washington Huskies taking on the California Golden Bears, and we're going to go ahead and roll last week's post game into this week's pregame because last week Oregon State pretty much took care of business. It wasn't perfect, but coming out of this game, I think you're mostly happy about stuff, but you have a couple concerns that are going into these future conference games. Let's talk about the good things first. Obviously, you win 42-7 on the road. You're always going to be happy with that, even though Oregon State looks like they're going to be about as bad as a lot of people would have expected. You're still happy with winning a game on the road like that. We ran the ball. Myles Gaskin had a really productive game, one of his best games of the season so far. Levon Coleman did work. And I feel like, I don't know, we might have had more rushing yards in an earlier game this season. I feel like it was the best I felt about our running attack all season long. And that's going to be really important going forward. So that was the main positive I took away from this one. And Jake Browning had a really good game. He threw a pick, which I believe was basically on a Hail Mary. I didn't really, to my recollection, it was not a pick that I was overly concerned about happening. But other than that, if you take away that, he played almost perfectly. He completed nearly 80% of his passes. And he did it without having the greatest set of weapons in the world, which I'll get into in a second here. And defensively, shut him down. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't throw the ball. I think we forced one fumble. Not a lot going on in the turnover department this week, but I'll gladly take a game where you just completely shut down the opposing offense. They can't pass. They can't run. They managed a couple quasi-big plays, but really not much. So a lot of stuff to be happy with. Couple concerns. Number one, what's going on in our kicking game? Vizcano missed another field goal, and for the rest of the game, as far as I know, Van Soderberg was kicking extra points. So when it comes time for us to make field goals tonight or in the future, who's it going to be, and is he going to be reliable? Right now, I don't know, but that is a concern point for this squad right now. But the number one thing, I was concerned about this before this game, and after this game was over, I couldn't get it out of my head. We don't have enough weapons on offense right now. We got one really good wide receiver. We got one really good running back. We have two good running backs. We have one great running back and one good one. And after that, it's a crapshoot from week to week on who's going to be the guy. We know we got a great wide receiver with Dante Pettis, and then after that, in the passing game, for everything that went well in this game for the Huskies, we had 7 points at the end of the first half. And from my perspective, a lot of that was because Jake Browning was dropping back. He had plenty of time in the pocket. He had all day back there to find somebody, and he couldn't find anybody because people weren't getting open. Obviously, it didn't happen on every play. He threw for almost 300 yards, but there were a lot of plays last week where my impression was he was just waiting for something to get open, something to happen with the routes, and it just wasn't happening, so he would take off and run, and he did so semi-productively. He had an 11-yard touchdown run in this game. He had a couple other pretty good runs, but that's not going to fly as this season goes along. Right now, we've got one receiver who dominated in this game. He had 12 catches and 3 touchdowns. That guy's great, but we need somebody else to become a reliable number 2 target. And, you look at this roster, there are a couple guys who are interesting to you. Hunter Bryant, Will Dissly, Quentin Pounds, all those guys made plays. But I didn't feel the consistency from them. And I don't know if they're there yet, but I believe that they have the potential to at least be an adequate number 2 receiver target in this offense because we have the number one guy. The number one guy is good. We have a great running game. We have a good quarterback. We have a great offensive line. But we need somebody to be the dude who steps up and makes us not miss McClatcher so much. Because a lot of the struggles on the Husky offense, in my opinion, were because we didn't have a number 2 wide receiver or a number 2 receiver at all to fill in what we were missing from Chico McClatcher. So that's pretty much that game. Nothing really to complain about yet, but things are starting to ramp up. So I am going to need to see something a little better from these secondary receivers in the future, be it Disley, Bryant, Pounds, or if and when he gets back, Drew Sample. It's got to be somebody, because this is not enough if we want to win this conference and make the playoff, I don't think. So, tonight, late start. Game was basically going to start at 8 o'clock, hosting the California Bears. We're big favorites. We're 4-touchdown favorites. California, their defense is terrible. They get gashed through the air. They get gashed on the ground. They're giving up 28 points a game, and that's with them getting their non-conference schedule early in the season, against which they went 3-0. And then conference play started. They've dropped to USC, which was actually a respectable loss. And then they got stomped on by Oregon last week. So this is a team that we should be able to dominate on the ground and through the air. And we should be able to put up 40-plus points and win the game that way. But California seems like they got some stuff going on offense. Even in the games that they've lost, they've put up points. They've scored at least 20 points in every game this year. They've scored 30 points twice. It's not an elite offense, but it's a good offense that is capable of doing a lot of positive things. They've made a lot of big plays through the passing game so far this year. They have a good number 1 wide receiver in Wharton. It's a team that's going to be able to put up points. And obviously this UW defense is playing at a elite level so far this year, so you would expect them to hold up, but this is not some offense that's just going to roll over and put up 200 total offensive yards. They are going to move the ball, they're going to score some, and you just got to outpace them. And I fully expect that to be the case tonight. I think our offense is going to feast, and we might come out of this game tonight and be looking at Jake Browning's box scores so far this season and saying that he is on track again to maybe having one of, if not the best season by any quarterback in school history. I believe he has that potential. So far this year, he's been really good, but I don't think he's been great yet. And tonight would be a good night for him to start being great, because this is another game where you're heavy favorites. Those games are going to start to dry up. So let's see them execute tonight. I'll be staying up late to see the end of this one. Maybe I'll make a video after the game. I don't know. But right now things are going pretty good. But we got to make them get even better. See you guys later.